A properly structured, maximum funded, indexed universal life, and if it is deemed a laser fund, has 6 advantages versus 2 advantages of a Roth. Get ready. I'm going to explain these, and I think you're going to be blown away. In this episode, I am going to stress the importance of teaching your adult children what is far better than an IRA or 401k or a Roth IRA or 401k to accumulate your money tax-free so that you will not outlive your money in retirement. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for 5 decades, helping thousands of Americans optimize assets, minimize taxes, and empower what I call their authentic wealth. Well, I've helped many people structure their golden years so they don't have to worry about outliving their money, okay? And so I do that by many times repositioning assets and curing some of the financial dis-ease, because when you're not at ease physically, we call that a physical disease. There's a lot of people that are not at ease financially when they retire. And so many times I have to sort of cure those. Well, so many of those parents, I say, golly, I wish we could have prevented this financial dis-ease 20 or 30 years ago. I go, yeah, me too. You would have had an extra $1 million or $2 million bucks or more, but why don't you share this with your adult children? So that's the purpose of this episode, is making sure you understand this, and then please take the stewardship responsibility to teach those you care about not to make the same mistakes and just follow the herd, and then later on having to cure that dis-ease when you could have prevented it from what you learned. Let's help the next generation not make the same mistakes we made, okay? So you have probably heard me on this channel make the statement, I've never owned an IRA or 401k. True. But I've never owned a Roth IRA or 401k. Never will. And people say, really? So what makes your favorite vehicle? They know I call it the Laser Fund, which is the title of a book I want to gift you at the end of this episode, so stay with me here. LASER is an acronym that stands for Liquid Asset Safely Earning Return. So whenever I reposition assets for my clients, it's because those assets where they're at are underperforming or non-performing, and they do not pass the liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefit tests with a high enough score. People want to raise their score on liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits. So they would come to me as a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist. So what I would do is I'd show them the far better way to save. And of course, I've never put money in a tax-deferred account because I know I'm not going to be in a lower tax bracket when I retire. It's so amazing how many people just, I think, are duped into being told that they'll likely be in a lower bracket. And yet their advisors who put themselves out as fiduciaries, what's a fiduciary? Somebody who's supposed to be looking out for your best interest. Well, I asked them, these advisors, when did you recognize that your client here was a saver and that they were headed for probably one of the highest tax brackets during their retirement? When did you recognize that? Golly, 5, 10, 15 years ago? Were you looking out for their best interest? To tell them to stay the course, keep putting money in tax-deferred IRAs or 401ks? Were you looking out for their best interest when you knew they would likely be in the same or higher bracket? No, you weren't. Maybe you were too embarrassed to say there is a better way, or that you've learned about a better way, or even the best way, which is totally tax-free. And so this is where I have never put money in a tax-deferred IRA or 401k, but when Roths were introduced in 1997, I knew what was going on. They didn't do it for the taxpayer benefit. They did it for their benefit. See, in 1997, the federal government was hard up for tax revenue. And Senator Roth said, you can name this idea after me, but there's a lot of smart people who are realizing that they're not going to be in a lower tax bracket when they retire, and that mathematically it would be better to get the taxes over and done with sooner than later. and then accumulate the money tax-free thereafter. Get the taxes over and done with at today's lower tax rates and lower account values. Does that make sense? Instead of waiting until the account value is up to this and then paying tax in a higher rate. You can't believe how many audiences in America, when I ask people, how many of you think that taxes in the future will likely be lower? I get nothing but crickets. How many think they're going to be the same? Well, one or two hands go up, and then I ask, well, how many of you think taxes will likely be higher in the future? And a sea of hands goes up, and then I go, well, how many of you are continuing to defer, put off, procrastinate paying tax to some future perceived unknown advantage when you retire? And now you have this huge accumulation, more money, taxed at higher rates. Why did you do that? And they just sit there and go, golly, that's really dumb now that you pointed out. And so this is why for decades I've helped people at retirement, which is something totally different than for retirement planning. Normally, I had to get their money out of IRAs or 401ks and into a laser fund, at the least into some Roths in the meantime, because a Roth is a step in the right direction. And that's why in 1997, it triggered a windfall of profit for the government. See, when people rolled their money over from traditional IRAs or 401ks to Roths, it was subject to tax. Well, they wanted to get the taxes over and done with, but this created the tax revenue the government wanted and needed. It worked. But only about 9% of Americans sees that opportunity. 91% still followed the herd and still do to this day, thinking that I'll deal with taxes on the back end. Well, folks, when people say, Doug, why would I go through getting a laser fund? If a Roth is tax-free, you fund it with after-tax dollars and it accumulates tax-free, you can access your money tax-free. That's what your laser fund does, right? I go, yes, but the laser fund has 4 additional advantages that Roths will never have. And they go, well, what are those? Well, savvy CPAs and tax attorneys refer to the laser fund as the rich person's Roth. But I snicker because you don't have to be rich to have one. But see, if you make too much money, you can't participate in a Roth. That's why you might want to consider a laser fund. But even if you did, Roths have strings attached. And so that means it's a qualified plan. You can only put in a certain dollar amount per year or a certain percent of your income. And if you don't use the room in a given tax year, you lose it forever. Versus a laser fund, I have business owners that they set up a laser fund so that if they have a banner year, they could contribute 300 grand. Okay. Do they have to put in 300,000? No, they could put in 30,000, 1/10 that. They can make up the other 270,000 anytime they want in the future. It doesn't have to be in that tax year. See, I want a non-qualified retirement planning alternative to qualified plans like IRAs and 401ks. So it's very flexible when you set up a laser fund, Roths or not. And you can't contribute enough to a Roth if you make too much money, like I said. Well, the other advantage is that when you put in money into a laser fund, if I put in 300 grand, and I actually had a client do this one time, and she called me 30 days later and needed 200,000 for an emergency, she didn't ever anticipate touching the account for 20 years. She was able to access $200,000. You can't do that in a Roth without triggering a 10% penalty. If you touch the money in a Roth in the first 5 years or before age 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty. So you don't have those strings attached. You can put money in. You can use it just like your own bank to put money in, take it out, and have it grow tax-free. That's explained in my book I want to gift you. But the other advantage over a Roth is that the laser fund allows you to participate when the market goes up and not lose when the market goes down by using indexing. We're not talking about index mutual funds here because that means your money's in the market and you would have lost 40% in the S&P 500 index, fund in 2008. Our clients were linked to the S&P 500, but they didn't lose a dime in 2008. And the first 90 days of 2009, they locked in gains of 16% after not losing a penny. That's explained in the book. And so indexing allows you to benefit when the market goes up, but not lose when the market goes down. The sixth and last advantage of a laser fund is that when you die, it blossoms, okay? It increases and transfers income tax free. Let me explain it this way. I'm 71. If I died in an accident tomorrow, every million I might have in a portfolio of laser funds would blossom to about 2 million and transfer tax free to my heirs. My wife, my kids, my grandkids, a church, a charity, whoever I want to leave it to. There's not a Roth around that will say, "Oh, sorry, Doug had $1 million in this Roth, but we're gonna give you $2 million, Mrs. Andrew." No, there's not a Roth around that will do that, but the laser fund does. And so the next question people ask is, "Well, how much does that cost?" Well, nothing's free, but it doesn't cost me anything. It's actually being paid for with a minuscule portion of money that would otherwise go out the window in unnecessary tax that most people pay, and they don't even realize it. I'm just getting my retirement insured in case I check out sooner than later, and it will blossom and increase in value for those I leave behind. This is part of our perpetual family bank that I talk about in my book. Well, if you want to learn more about what I've been talking about and understand the 6 advantages of a property structured max funded IUL laser fund compared to a Roth, then claim a free copy of my book and learn about it yourself. But if you're convinced, help your adult children so they don't make the same mistake thinking they're going to be in a lower tax bracket when they retire. And so help prevent the financial dis-ease. So go to laserfund.com or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that cost and I'll pay for the book. I will fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail. But when you're in there claiming your free copy, if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, check out those formats. But you want to learn more, we have educational webinars we teach on a regular basis. They are free. You can even schedule an appointment to talk to a certified IUL professional so that you can learn how these strategies may apply in your particular set of circumstances with no cost or obligation. And they will do that and show you how they can apply to you. This is, again, not about me. This is about you and your brighter future. So here's to your brighter future.